Hello guys, welcome back to our Fanfic Hub channel. In this video we are gonna see, what if Naruto got harem with Luna, Chrysalis, Rarity, Lyra, Trixie, and Rainbow Dash. Part 1. Huge shout out to Ethereal Trixster for this story. If you want more awesome fan fiction like this, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. So without wasting any time, let's get into the video. Two bitter rivals stared each other down as they prepared their last attacks against each other. Naruto, this attack will finish our battle, and after I'm finished with you, I'll go to Orochimaru and get the power I deserve. The Uchiha stood on his patron's head, charging his Chidori, aiming to settle the rivalry with his best friend. Why Sasuke, I don't get it, aren't we friends? The blonde's eyes pleaded for any sign of remorse in the Uchiha's eyes, for leaving the village, but all he saw were eyes full of hatred. So the young blonde began charging his Rasengan. Ready Naruto? They both charged at each other, one intent on severing the bond of their friendship, while the other intent on saving those bonds. The attacks clashed, and the forest became silent as the yells of pain erupted from both combatants. Of course, you wouldn't make it easy for me, didn't you? The Uchiha expected some sort of reply from his best friend, but nothing was the only answer he got. Answer me, dope. The puddle on the first Hokage's hands revealed what he had just done. His eyes began to change, and then he obtained the Manjiki Sharingan. Damn it wasn't supposed to end like this. You were supposed to continue as I left for greater things. His eyes looked on at the corpse of Naruto Uzumaki, becoming that which he despised the most. Sasuke became the same as his brother Itachi, a murderer that only used others for testing his potential. Sasuke let the rain hit him as his former sensei approached the scene and stared at the scene. Sasuke turned towards his sensei before walking back to Konoha, carrying the body of Naruto Uzumaki with him on his shoulder back to Konoha, knowing he was most likely going to be punished for the crimes he just recently committed. Purgatory. Naruto stared on at the white world. The white seemed to go on as far as the boy could see. Where am I? His thoughts rung aloud, trying to make heads or tails of where he was. Stupid Ningen, we're dead or next to its door, thanks to your shitty aim, and the Uchiha's lightning attack. The fox reasoned out with utter growl, as it pondered the reason he was still sealed into Naruto. A shout of next was all the warning Naruto got before he found himself flying forward by some unknown force, and slamming into some wall. His eyes lingered upwards as he began to panic. The wall he just slammed into was not a wall, but in fact a corpse. The corpse was in the shape of a pony he'd seen in books, but the comparison stopped there. The pony's skin, sinew, muscles, and guts were missing. Instead it was just a skeleton with what appeared to be wings scomming out from its ribs, and what seemed to be a horn adorning the top of the pony's skull. The only telltale signs of it once being alive, were the onyx black mane and tail, the latter swishing back and forth touching the patch of skin with a strange symbol located on its right flank. Naruto normally wouldn't have noticed the strange marking or the patch of skin for that matter. But they were both mighty remarkable. The image was the standard scythe with some sort of orb either dripping or hanging off the said weapon. Hello, Naruto Uzumaki, I take it you are having a near-death experience, otherwise you whiskered face shouldn't meet this little mare for quite some time. Naruto's face didn't betray his emotions. He was confused, unsettled and scared, if he was completely honest with himself. The skeletal alicorn looked left, and with a smoky poof an amber-colored book, haunting moans and many pleas that sounded like help me. Towards the poor blonde, which he chose to ignore, instead focusing on where the book came from in the first place. Let me introduce myself then, I am Death, and it is a pleasure to finally meet you. Naruto's eyes widened at the realization of who he was standing in front of. The poor boy really was trying to rationalize everything, as Death skimmed through the book. Aha! Here we are, Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze, container of the Een half of Kurama, the QB no Kitsune. Yada, yada, yada. Let's see what is the problem. The skeletal alicorn's horn glowed ominously before the pages kept turning, the aura of death emanating off the skeletal creature before the book snapped shut. Well, this is rather unfortunate. You were supposed to die from food poisoning thanks to an expired batch of ramen 60 years from now, but it seems that Kami has another idea in store for you, hence why you're dead. Naruto stared on in confusion as Death, with a wave of its bony hoof, made the book disappear before a phone appeared in its hand. Oh huh, that's right, you like seeing people rough, don't you? Wait, you can't stick it there, that not fair at all. Fine, you win, but you me big time for this, you hear me? The dead ninja stared off in confusion and with a small blush, trying to make heads or tails of the conversation he just overheard. Death's head turned towards Naruto, before opening its muzzle and letting a glob of something pour out of its mouth. The glob shifted before taking a much lighter and tamer form of the QB no Kitsune. Yeah, Naruto was lost now. The QB was in his gut, and now one was in front of him. So here's the deal, Fox. First off, stay out of the public eye. We don't need to explain why the QB no Kitsune is running amok in a village when its container is supposed to be dead. Then with a poof the Kitsune was gone from sight. Now that's settled, how do we get the fox out of you? Naruto's brow furrowed, trying to think of something to get on the better side of the alicorn of death. How about you just send for the fourth Hokage? He was the one that put it in me, so shouldn't he know a way to take it out? Death thought of this. It was a sucker for family drama, so why not? Very well, Naruto Uzumaki, a great idea shouldn't be put to waste. Death again opened its muzzle, letting another glob come out of its mouth before taking shape into Minato Namikaze. The blonde father blinked as his eyes adjusted to the white world, before settling on the two before him, his son and death itself. Minato stared at Naruto sadly while he spoke. So it was as I feared. Not even my son was able to stop them. Naruto stared at his now appointed father before slamming his fist into his face, again and again before stopping halfway as he let the tears run down his face. Why did you do it? Another fist slammed into the father's face, not giving him a chance to reply, while Death calmly watched the scene unfold. You're a bastard, you know that. The village hated me because of the damn fox, and then when I die I find out my father was the same man who sealed the damn thing into me. Another fist came crashing down onto his father's face before he pushed himself off and regained his composure, tears still falling freely down his face. Son, you can't begin to understand the reason I sealed half of the QB into you. Just know I had faith in you, your mother has faith in you, and we both will always have faith in you. Do you know why, Naruto? The blonde roared a slur of words no one could understand. It's because Kushina and I will always love you, Naruto. Naruto's eyes never stopped crying, whether out of anger or happiness Minato would never know. Instead, Death approached the two blondes, interrupting their tender moment. Alright, that was all good fun, but I didn't call your father here to watch you two duke it out. He's here to unseal that furry little abomination in your gut. Now get to it. Minato looked on at both before shrugging, and did as he was told. The minutes passed by, but nothing ever happened, which seemed to irritate the skeletal alicorn and scare the two blondes, as the eldest informed it he didn't have the key. The key? You kept a key to harbor the third most powerful entity to ever walk the elemental nations? Do you know how irresponsible that is? Okay, then I believe you have served enough time in my stomach. It is time for your judgment, Minato Namikaze. For the murder of thousands of shinobi and civilians, constructing an unreasonable contract against the god of death, I hereby sentence you to live a life in heaven. For all the crimes you committed, you also saved twice as many people, even stopping a certain man from starting another unnecessary war. Minato's eye widened before thanking the alicorn, then disappeared with a flicker of light, before Death turned its attention back to Naruto, magically lifting him off the ground, staring into the boy's eyes. Naruto Uzumaki, it is the responsibility of Death to know the life of every being in its given realms. I am glad to have been put in charge of your dimension, Uzumaki. There are countless things you were supposed to achieve, but the single greatest thing that you did or would have ever done was never tainting your soul. Whether it was the heart of gold you have, or the morals you taught yourself, you truly are an inspiration to those of the ninja world. Every dimension needs a hero, and sadly the elemental nations will find one in Sasuke Uchiha thanks to your untimely demise. You set him on the right path and kept your word like a true man would, so again the world owes you another great favor. Naruto just listened intently as he smiled at what his once rival/best friend had become, even if it came at the cost of his life. I wish I could give you the life you deserve, but Kami's will stops me from even trying to bring you back to your old world. So I offer you something that only the rarest of people ever get, a different life. This is a one-time offer, you can take it and have a chance of a life full of love and happiness with the possibility of much more if you accept. This life will be full of hardships, and many more than you have faced in your short life, not counting the villagers of course. Naruto's eyes widened at the prospect of what Death was saying. A chance at life again, this was so awesome. Uzumaki, before you make a decision, let me warn you what will happen to if accept my deal. You will lose everything but your name and the fox that is currently residing in your stomach. All your friends and jutsus will be a distant memory and nothing more. Now I will ask you again, do you accept my offer, Naruto Uzumaki? Naruto didn't know what to do or say as the skeletal alicorn let him free of his magical bonds. His body didn't move or breathe as he readied himself for his choice. Death, I accept your offer. His cerulean eyes roared with the same intensity as he swore to save Sasuke, and many promises he had made before. Naruto Uzumaki doesn't back down from anything. Death didn't say anything as she heard his loud proclamation, instead she began to giggle, which turned into full-blown laughter. Hey! Don't laugh, I'm being serious here. The blonde glared at the laughing alicorn before it stopped. Oh, Naruto, it's been a while since I laughed so hard, I'm grateful we met. Since you so graciously accepted my offer. This new world you'll live in is called Equestria, a land where I once resided, boy. The boy blinked in wonder at whatever Death had just said, before settling on the word. Equesta, what now? Death didn't falter at the stupidity shown in the boy's eyes. In fact, that's what made him special. The carelessness was a charm of itself and would fit perfectly where he was going. Naruto, you will do well where you are going, but I need you to relax for a while now. The alicorn's horn grew an azure color, before Naruto's yells of pain rang throughout the white world. The burning pain coursed through his body, his innards felt set aflame as begged for the pain to go away. Then in Naruto's eyes the world had gone blank, as his body went limp. You may come out now, Kurama, it's been a while since I talked to a deity as yourself. The boy's body shot back up instantaneously as his eyes burned with intensity at the mention of his name. Don't mention my name, you insufferable bastard. His fist shot out towards the alicorn, before being stuck in place by Death's azure flames. Kurama, we both know you could never beat me, our skill sets differ too greatly. Death's azure flame danced across the blonde's body, seeping into the seal that held the powerful fox at bay. What are you doing? Don't you understand what I could give the boy? Power to protect and to destroy, it's all the same. Don't you understand? The power that emanated off the boy only decreased as the flames continued to seep into the seal. Your fate was decided long ago to be made whole, and it will be done. Sadly, even as I leave you without an ounce of chakra, you'd still live. That's why you will be his guide in Equestria, even if you are only a walking almanac on the various animals and mystical creatures of the world. Kurama snarled, not seeing any point in helping this pathetic fleshbag besides the fact that Death was practically threatening him at this point. You will do this, and I assure the next time we meet you will be set free from the shackles that bind you to this boy. Though I'm going to ensure you won't tamper with the boy's life, you understand. Every time you go out of bounds, then what is required of you, a tail will disappear, and when you have lost all your tails, you will disappear from existence just like that. Kurama snarled at the point, sure it knew anything it would ever meet, but was the boy that important? Kurama, the only thing I want you to do is lead the boy in battle against his future enemies, even as a sixth sense for the carnal pleasure of battle. You shall not mention his previous life ever, even as he meets me again. The boy nodded again, smirking at its only purpose needed was to help him fight. I could do that, in fact it would probably enjoy doing it anyways. Death, it feels like I'm making a deal with the devil himself, but we both know you're better than that. Thud. The boy's body dropped to the ground as the lasting effect of Kurama's chakra faded, as his whole chakra system faded, changing the boy's body into that of a resident of Equestria. His legs and arms changed slowly into hooves before the rest of his body turned as well. Blissfully unaware of the pain Naruto should have died thrice over, Death watched as the metamorphosis from human to pony finally finished. It was proud of its work. The boy looked the age of a stallion, and Death would make sure he was the age as well. The orange coat covering the boy's body, a testament to the passion for the color even during his unconscious state. The blonde mane and tail twitched constantly. The wings folded against his frame giving him a surreal warmth, the horn that sprouted glowed with magic as it covered the body in a reddish glow. Effects of Kurama's influence, but nothing more. His magical reserves are even higher than me when I was at his age, though I doubt he will find it as easy to control the overwhelming magic he had without any proper guidance, but it's time for him to leave, and myself to tend to my duty. A flame appeared hovering over the alicorn before opening a large hole underneath him, sending him crashing into the lake near the ever-free forest. The image of the skeleton faded as a withered old pony stood in front of the hole in its place. I pray to Celestia and all those of her caliber, you live a rich and wonderful life. I gave you the chance for another life as I was offered so many years ago. Though the difference between us was that I have already achieved my goals in life and you a filly in my eyes will be needed in this world, I'm sure of it. The old unicorn stood back at the white world, before waiting for another chance to change someone's life like he just did moments waited for someone to greet him in this eternal purgatory. Near Fluttershy's house, Naruto's body crashed into the lake scaring off various animals which attracted the attention of a certain light yellow-colored Pegasi. Fluttershy stared at the water as the orange alicorn floated ashore. The Pegasi looked frightened at the sudden pony's appearance, but even more she was concerned for the poor pony's well-being, so she asked her fellow animal friends to help carry the sleeping alicorn to her cottage. I wonder what the poor guy was doing to make him crash into the lake. Her thoughts only towards helping the poor pony, even as Angel the small white bunny tapped his foot on the ground in what seemed to be anger. Please Angel only for a bit, I'm awfully worried about him. Besides we still have a week before the summer sun celebration. The bunny tapped its foot once more, but let it slide as he knew the poor Pegasi would only worry herself to death if they did nothing for the alicorn. Thanks, Angel, I'll make your favorite meal as an apology. The bunny nodded his head as both seemed startled hearing the groan as the pony started to stir. What in the name of Celestia hit me? The orange alicorn turned toward the present company, one a small white bunny and the other a pale yellow Pegasi with a pink mane. She had 3 pink and cyan butterflies on her right flank. Excuse me if it's not any trouble, can you possibly tell me your name, if it isn't so much trouble to ask? The Pegasi tried to cower behind the small bunny, despite the fact it was easily twice his size. Oh sorry, it only proper for me to tell you my name first. It is Naruto Uzumaki, it's a pleasure to meet you miss. They both exchanged a glance as blue eyes met blue eyes and they both blushed as they looked away. My name is Fluttershy. She looked away as Naruto stood up stretching his legs, before noticing the absence of a cutie mark on his side. Fluttershy, do you mind if I ask where I am? Her thoughts interrupted by his question. Oh, we're outside of Ponyville, Mr. Naruto. They both stared at each other in silence as the day had just begun for both ponies. Fluttershy's day truly couldn't get any worse in her opinion or better, it really was unsettling staring at the cerulean blue eyes of her guest, before he politely turned away gaining permission to take in his surroundings. Naruto was royalty in all but name, though that had an exotic ring to it as well. The alicorn trotted around in her small cottage carefully trying to make sure he didn't bother the exhausted animals as he looked around. He seemed nice, and she knew most of the animals already took a shine to him already. Even Angel seemed less cautious of the alicorn, and that's where the problem lied. What he was an alicorn. She could only name off the top of her head and that was Princess Celestia, so why was an alicorn trotting through her house without any sort of guard for that matter? Curiosity got the best of her as she hesitantly called out to the mysterious alicorn. Mr. Naruto, don't mind me asking, but where are you from? You don't have to answer it though, I was just curious. She shied away as he turned towards her, bumping into one of her tortoise friends before quickly apologizing to the gentle soul. Please call me Naruto, I'm not that old. Fluttershy, I come from somewhere past Philadelphia, in a cottage a little bigger than this one actually. The alicorn gave her a genuine smile as he talked about his life, which was more of him inside a house as his mother whispered things to him. The Pegasi couldn't help but smile at the cheerfulness as he spoke of both of his parents, reminding her to send a letter to her parents as well. Fluttershy, do you mind if you could give me a tour of the town? See, I haven't been in any town to be exact, and since I'm kinda here I can take a bit of a break. His voice raised in cheer as he thought of visiting a city. I got a letter to leave and head straight for Canterlot and meet the princess. when I became a stallion, and well, with all things considered, I don't want to meet the princess just yet." The eagerness was clear in the stallion's eyes. Each time she tried to speak, Naruto's eyes would widen a bit more and she would cower away from breaking the bad news to him. This lasted for a few minutes before Naruto caught on to what he was instinctively doing, so he looked toward Angel, letting the timid mare finally speak. "I'm really sorry, Naruto, I'm terribly sorry, but I can't show you the town. I have to prepare for the Summer Sun Celebration Festival. I'm in charge of the music and one of the birds are off key, and well, I'd like to, but Princess Celestia is coming and we need everything to be perfect for her." Well, that's what the mayor said at least. "Please don't be mad at me, I'm really sorry. You can ask Angel, he might be able to help out, or at least lead you to Ponyville." Naruto's head dropped as she informed him of the situation, but perked back up as he looked hopefully at the white bunny. The bunny nodded slowly, its ears twitching in frustration thanks to Fluttershy's request. Even if it was a simple one as showing Naruto around Ponyville. "Now Angel, behave for Naruto and bring him to Rarities, she can take care of the rest." She watched the bunny nod before climbing aboard the alicorn, inwardly cringing at the brashness of Angel's actions. She expected the alicorn to reprimand the bunny before letting it hop off the stallion. Instead, he just waited for Angel to get adjusted. "I'll be back in a second." The mare trotted towards the kitchen before briefly pulling out a few bits, giving it to Angel as both stared at Fluttershy in wonder. "Just for when you get hungry, there should be enough for the both of you to get something to eat." The pale yellow Pegasi nudged them out the door as gently as she could, before flying off towards the forest searching for the songbirds' meeting place. Half an hour later, Naruto trotted through Ponyville, nervously as the residents of the town stared wide-eyed at him. Some muttering to themselves and others, while most just bowed as he passed by. It was unsettling for Naruto to say the least, and Angel wasn't making things any better, tugging on the poor stallion's mane every time he ventured off path, ruining his natural style more and more with each tug. "So which way do we go to this rarity pony?" He waited for the Snow White bunny to hop down and lead him towards a large-looking store named Carousel Boutique. It reminded him of one of the big top tents a circus had, from the books he read. This rarity pony must be very rich if she can afford this whole place. His amazement ended as the bunny knocked on the front door, then skedaddling behind the confused-looking alicorn. "Please come in, I'll be with you in a moment." Naruto looked at the small white bunny cowering behind him, letting him climb on him once again before trotting inside the boutique. The boutique was more stunning on the inside, in Naruto's opinion. His hooves trotted forward as they were on autopilot as he stared in amazement. The bright vibrant of colors caught his eye right away, many assorted in various arrangements in what resembled clothing, each differing from the other in some way. Even Naruto knew the work of an expert at there. His hooves stopped in front as he saw a white unicorn mare, her indigo mane and tail fit into curls. The blue diamond cutie mark reminded him of the fact his mark had yet to come in. Her horn glowed with a light blue aura, as she magically lifted various colored ribbons into the air, before placing one forward and placing the rest into a pile. "There, now that is all finished, how may you?" Naruto watched the mare sputter before just stopping altogether, and Angel hightailed it put of the seamstress shop, leaving Naruto to his fate, taking the few bits with him. Rarity stared at the stallion before her and she was horrified at his appearance. Alicorn or not, this was no excuse for ignoring proper mane and tail treatment. "Can you help me find Rarity?" The unicorn ignored Naruto's question, instead dragging the alicorn through her fashion boutique before plopping him down onto chair. "Hey, what are you doing?" The alicorn stopped as he was sprayed with water regardless of his protests about it. "I do not know who you are, but no one in my boutique will have such a rat's nest for a tail and mane, do you hear me?" Naruto's only choice at this point was to nod and accept his fate. The unicorn's horn glowed as she styled his hair, looking at the various styles in front of her, trying to decide on one of them in front of her. "Let's see, Lyra's would go nicely this time of year, but his tail is rather short." Her mind settling on a style in particular, and so she began even as the alicorn protested. Many minutes later Rarity stood and stared at the alicorn, proud of her work. The mane atop of head was slicked back, kept in between both ears. His tail upturned at the end, letting it swoop back and forth similar to a dog's tail. The few seconds that Naruto's mane stayed in place was marvelous to say the least, but to Rarity's dismay the mane broke out into spikes again, though on a much upbeat note his tail remained untouched to the outburst. I see, so his hair won't cooperate then, an outfit to change the outlook then. The unicorn's eyes gleamed as a few outfits started to appear out of nowhere surrounded by a light blue aura, before being put away as Naruto glared at the unicorn. I'm here to meet Rarity, not to be some now help or point me in the right direction. Naruto Uzumaki is nobody's show pony. The unicorn seemed a little offended, but she calmed herself down. It wasn't every day she got to pamper an alicorn. Oh, where are my manners? I'm truly sorry, I didn't mean to offend you, Mr. Uzumaki, but when I see a pony with such a horrible mane I have to do something about, no matter how much you protested. On a different note though, I am Rarity. Now may I ask, what does such a regal pony as yourself doing in my humble shop? She stared at the rustic orange alicorn as he began to go wide-eyed at her proclamation. Now that I think of it, could you be an envoy for Celestia herself? Her thoughts wandered briefly, before coming back to reality, noticing the alicorn begin to make his escape from her grasp. Please, I implore you, do not leave Mr. Uzumaki, I assure you are in capable hands. So may I ask what you need of me, and I will take the time to aid you in any way as possible. She watched him stop in his place and turn towards her, his eyes gleaming as she stared at her wholeheartedly, making her realize that maybe she should have worded things better. She shuddered as he paced closer to her before stopping in front of her. You'll do anything right, Rarity? Well, I have something in mind. She gulped as he stared into her eyes hungrily. She knew what he was going to ask and silently cried to herself. He was an alicorn while she was some slightly famed seamstress. Everyone would turn a blind eye to his actions most likely if both arguments came to light. Can you treat me to some food? Angel kinda took off with all the money, and call me Naruto. My name isn't Mr. Uzumaki. She nodded dumbly at the sincerity of his comment, before laughing to herself, fretting over nothing and letting her mind wander into much darker territory. Sure, let me get some bits. I'm sure Pinkie Pie and the Cake family would love to have such a resounding figure in their shop. Naruto nodded, imagining various foods, before being dragged with the same blue aura. Come on Naruto, no time for dilly-dallying. I'm quite parched as well, and I have only a few minutes to spare even with such company as yourself. Her pace had come to a gentle trot, walking alongside Naruto and sparking up a brief conversation with Rarity, asking him about his past and everything about him in general. The conversation ended abruptly as Rarity looked on as he licking his lips. So this is the place where we get something to eat, huh? Rarity couldn't help but stifle a giggle, as Naruto's eyes darted back and forth before walking up to the store and going inside. The disappointment written across her face. Usually newcomers tried to at least bite the confectionery serving house. It was clear that he was somewhat smarter than the occasional visitor. Come on in, Rarity, all of it looks awesome. She trotted inside and sure enough the alicorn was practically drooling at the treat stowed away behind the glass counter. Naruto, as much as it pains me to leave such a gentle colt as yourself, but I need to prepare for Celestia and the summer sun celebration. He nodded dumbly before she spoke up again, this time with a much firmer voice. I recall you wanting to meet Princess Celestia, so why don't you stay here and let her come to you? He stared at her while she briefly placed both of their orders. His face changed to one of deep thought as the cakes brought them both of their orders. Naruto, it was a pleasure meeting you. Please do drop by before you leave, at least visit one last time. He nodded, his mind still on autopilot as the option Rarity just gave him ran through his head, never noticing the ninja-like pony approaching him from the back of the shop. Pinkie Pie noticed the new alicorn sitting alone in the shop. She saw Rarity leave and that's when she realized he wasn't busy. So she took it upon herself to make a new friend, and an alicorn friend at that, which made him like a super friend. She slowly snuck behind, preparing the confetti in her hooves ready to brighten his day and hers as well. She sprung out, surprising him out of stupor, and falling back, letting himself hit the cold floor. His eyes gazed upwards as cerulean blue eyes met a lighter color of his own, both unblinking as the pink pony starred on. Howdy mister, nice to meet, my name's Pinkie Pie, what's yours? Wait, before you answer let me guess, is it orange and blue? No wait, that's already taken. How about mystery man? Ooh, that sounds awesome. Well, whatever it is, I bet it's cool as you, huh, but still not as cool as the cake. Super supreme chocolate cake with chocolate frosting. You'll never know how much chocolate that we bake into it. She took a step back, letting Naruto get back up. My name is Naruto Uzumaki, and please don't tell me that Evapony in Ponyville happens to attack every newcomer." She shook her head with such quickness. He stared at the pink mare and noticed the darker shade of pink mane and tail in its poofy glory, and the cutie mark on her tail side. He now didn't feel as self-conscious about his spiky mane compared to Pinkie Pie's. "So Pinkie, who are you? Why did you scare me, and are you stalking me?" The earth pony disappeared in an instant, appearing back behind the counter of Sugar Cube Corner, either in speed or something else entirely. Pinkie Pie impressed Naruto all the same. "My name is Pinkie Pie, I already told you that's silly, and the reason I scared you because it was a surprise. I mean hello, if I wanted to surprise you, then it needs to be done without you knowing what I'm going to do, of course. You're silly Naruto, not knowing how surprises work. I don't stalk ponies, I follow them without them knowing, see a major difference. The reason I'm here though is because I work here, along with the cakes that is, and the reason I introduced myself is because you're new here. I know that because I know every pony that lives, and I've never seen you before." He nodded in defeat as he just resigned to her answer. It made sense at least. "Naruto, you should lighten up, otherwise you'll be turned into a cranky pants, and nobody likes a cranky pant, except the cranky pants in Manhattan, but they are like cranky pants in a different sense." His head nodded, trying to divide attention between her talking, and eating the cake in front of him. He lifted the piece of cake with a vermilion aura, taking a quick bite and smiling happily as the taste just melted in my mouth. "I know, right? The flavor is so yummy, the cakes won't let me make this one, telling me that vanilla is expensive. It's really tasty though, and the word's fun to say, vanilla, you should try saying it sometime." Naruto stared on at the pink pony still talking away as the vanilla cake vanished into his stomach. He waited for any sort of pause coming from the pink pony, and thankfully she did stop to catch a breath, and with that Naruto bid her goodbye. "Thanks for the awesome cake, Pinkie, but I need to be leaving. I hope to see you again." Naruto left as fast as Pinkie Pie disappeared behind the counter, leaving one confused pony already in the process of planning a party for the jumpy alicorn. Naruto walked on pretending like nothing happened in Sugar Cube Corner. The earth pony was strange and hyper mixed into one. His expectations of meeting someone halfway normal in this small town was steadily dropping as each thought passed by, and by past it was more like there for a second and then gone the next. Naruto felt so happy, and hyper, too bad his attentiveness to himself could have been used somewhere else. His body slammed to the ground as a blur landed on top of him. Ow, why does this keep happening to me? His head hurt, but he was sure he needed his eyesight checked as all he could see was cyan and a rainbow of colors. "I said look out, why didn't you move? Are you colorblind as well as deaf?" His eyes settling on the cyan coat in front of him. "And here Fluttershy told me to find you as a favor, I can see why now." The cyan mare pushed herself off Naruto standing over him. Let's see, blonde spiky mane check, rustic orange coat check, a horn and pair of wings check. So Fluttershy wasn't crazy, he really is an alicorn. Her magenta eyes scanned the down stallion as he still tried to regain his bearing. "So you must be the Naruto fellow she was talking about then, the name's Rainbow Dash, the fastest Pegasi in all of Equestria, at your service." Some pony was sure full of herself, he could feel the ego radiating from her. Can you fly? Her eyes beaming at the chance of comparing her flight speed against someone of such caliber, even if he looked like he had 3 left hooves on the ground. His attention was turned towards the mane atop the Tompany's head. "Wait, is that real? Because that looks so buckin' awesome, I mean your hair is a rainbow." He didn't notice anything else about the Pegasi besides the wings and hair, it just was epic, and then thought left back to his earlier conversation with Pinkie Pie, a brief one at that. Never mind the first comment, do all ponies attack visitors, or am I just the millionth visitor? His sarcasm didn't go over as well as he hoped with the rainbow-haired Pegasi, instead it seemed to make her angrier. She snorted as she flew circles around him, flicking his nose with her hooves. "Hey, stop it, just because I can't fly as easily as you doesn't give you the right to flick me there." His wings flapping rapidly, trying to get his large frame off the ground, instead slamming his face into the ground as his back half raised itself 5 inches off the ground, giving Rainbow Dash a little smile. Her thoughts of getting a few chuckles from his desperate attempt at flying, but she didn't have it in her no matter how bad he was at it. The whole scene just reminded her of the time in flight school with Fluttershy. She would fix this problem. I see, so that's how it is, you're grounded. That's pretty bad, though it doesn't look like anything is broken. Dash looked on as his wings stopped and dropped his lower half back to the ground. His form was off for sure. In fact, it looked more like he taught himself how to fly instead of going to flight school. So what school did you go to then? Because whoever taught you to fly really had no idea what they were teaching. She knew that look in his eyes all too well. No one's ever taught to properly fly then. Well, that ends today. Dash's eyes brightened with a noticeable gleam, before helping him up to his feet. Come on, we need to go to Apple Acres, that's the best place to learn how to fly. Naruto's didn't say anything, instead letting her fly off by herself. He followed the rainbow streak, having nothing better to do at the moment, though he was a little grateful she was willing to help with his flight problem. Well, problem wasn't really the right word for it. He knew how to glide, and that must have counted for something, didn't it? The trail stopped and then appeared again as he ducked the cyan blur, nearly taking his head off. Hey, watch it, you fool, I'm coming. I can't really fly, you know, that's why I'm following you on the ground in the first place. Dash's face turned to a sheepish grin, rubbing her mane with one of her hooves. She honestly did forget the reason she was heading to Apple Acres. Now get down here and walk me to wherever, because I'm not going to look at you showing off that you can fly and I can't. He watched her flip her tail against his nose as she dropped to the ground next to him. Come on, let's at least race there then, since you don't want me flying. His eyes rolled as he stared at her flank, noticing the cloud with a rainbow bolt of lightning coming from under it. Dash took off in a gallop, as his gaze turned towards the golden shiny bell of the Ponyville school. Smirking to herself as she left him in her dust. Hee hee, I left him in the dust. That stallion couldn't win against me, even if I let him have a head start to Apple Acres. Her galloping finally settled down to a slow trot, waiting for him to catch up. Before too long she came to a stop, waiting for him to catch up in front of Apple Acres. Her patience wore thin as she waited. It had been at least 5 minutes already and he still was just coming into sight, his head towards the ground, galloping. Finally, I can see him. Well, I'll let him get closer so I don't hurt his feelings too bad. Her brow furrowed as an orange body passed by her, and then the sound of Naruto slamming into one of their posts. She gawked as he dizzily walked around in the front gate, signifying the race was still on, the blood dripping from his nose as he finally collapsed, falling over the fence, beating Rainbow Dash with a few seconds to spare as she came barreling towards the gates. Damn, he must have did something to get that fast. I mean, he was a speck last time I checked, and then bam, he passed me up. She wasn't really angry, just confused about how fast he suddenly gotten. Ignoring the growing questions in her head, she helped the poor guy up, dragging him towards the Apple family before placing him down on the ground in search of Big Mac, and hoping he'd lend his help in the alicorn's flight training. His head reeled as Rainbow Dash left him in front of the house and tried looking around for the pony, tapping her foot on the ground in front of him. Celestia, my head hurts enough as it is, can you stop the tapping? Naruto's eyes focused on the orange blur in front of him, as she stopped next time to ask a little more nicely, since your face looked like it got kicked by one of Rarity's karate attacks, I'll do you this favor for you. His eyes finally starting to focus and came eye to with a similar color to his own coat. Now partner, I don't mind you looking around Apple Acres, but here you respect our rules, got that, which means using manners, got that. His head nodded as his sight finally adjusted enough to stare at the Stetson wearing blonde in front of him. Well, since Dash brought you here, I guess you can't be all that bad. She helped Naruto off the ground and sat on his body on a couch, letting the fellow blonde as she searched for a cloth to wipe the blood off his face. Naruto stopped and rested his head on the arm of the couch, letting the fragrant scent of apple embrace him. The atmosphere and peacefulness made him feel right at home compared to the other places he visited. I'm mighty sorry, but all I got is something to wipe the blood away, nothing to help your situation, to stop the blood spewing from your nose. He blinked as the Stetson-wearing blonde slowly approached him as though he was some delicate object, with a white cloth hanging of the bridge of her nose. Now ya stay still, it should only take a second. The delicate approach ended as she started dragging the cloth across his face, before eventually stopping and nodding at the job well done. See, now that you don't look like one of the rabble-rousing foals we get now and then, mind telling me darn name is? She let him stand up and shake his head a few times, probably letting him shake the cobwebs from whatever happened to him. My name is Naruto, miss, and thanks for your hospitality, I'm really grateful for your kindness. He watched her nod and helped lead him again outside the door, as the night sky started to come in full force. "My name is Applejack, Mr. Naruto, and please don't think nothing of it. Us Apple family members try to do our part to help any pony in need, within reason of course." He walked across the fields alongside Applejack, looking at the various types of apple trees as she told him about how they got each different type, or about how her family helped around the farm. He listened to most of what she said, but what caught his attention the most was the dead-looking trees in one particular area of their farmland, which she was happy to explain about Zap apples. "So you're telling me that these apples are only found during 5 days of the year, and that's if nature feels like letting them bloom this year for your little batch of trees?" She nodded at the small summarization of their fastest-selling product in jam form, making Naruto wonder how the Stetson never moved atop of Applejack's head. It was impressive to say the least as Naruto was concerned. He could only imagine how much work Applejack and Big Mac did daily, not counting the social life she apparently had as well. The night got darker as she led him back to the farmhouse, declining a place to stay the night as he trotted away happily. His mind was already made up as he started galloping back into Ponyville, watching the stars litter the sky one by one, thanks to Celestia's doing. The moon shone brightly as he stopped in front of Carousel Boutique. Oddly enough, the light remained on. He gazed at the door as the moonlight shined on him as though it was lighting the path for him. Knock, knock, knock. He waited for any sort of movement inside the house before he came face to face with someone else entirely, a filly that looked all but dead to the world. "You're Rarity's friend, right? The name's Sweetie Belle." The poor filly looked ready to collapse every time she tried to move. She stumbled towards him. The light purple and pink mane dropped over her eyes as snoring came from her small frame. "Oh Sweetie Belle, who is it?" Rarity's voice snapped the young filly out of her slumber, letting Naruto inside as Rarity approached them both. "Ah Naruto, it's wonderful to see your face, especially at this time of the day." Her gaze averted from her esteemed guest to the little filly trying to defiantly stay awake to meet her guest. "Sweetie, be a dear and head to bed for me. I'm sure you can meet Naruto later." The little filly left them both in a zombie-like trance, heading straight to bed. "Sorry about that Naruto, the little filly wanted to meet you since I told her of our brief encounter." They both chuckled as she led him inside the boutique. "I know it's rude of me to ask, but have you made a decision on that particular subject?" Her eyes never straying too far from the Naruto's frame, instead seeming to make mental measurements in her head. Naruto never noticed Rarity's wandering eyes, instead focusing on the new designs littering the pony-shaped mannequin. "I'm going to wait for her to come to Ponyville instead of walking to Canterlot." She briefly nodded to herself and giving the alicorn a dazzling smile. "Now since you're staying, I insist you stay here, and before you protest let me warn you I have no qualms with dragging you around Ponyville, and then make a large spectacle of the situation which would embarrass us both but you more in the process." Again today Naruto resigned to his fate, letting Rarity once again take control of the situation. "Now please go up to the stairs and take a bath. You positively reek and no one staying under my roof will practice bad grooming, do you understand me?" She smiled at the retreating form of Naruto, watching his backside all up until he turned away heading up the stairs. "Ah, I'm so glad that I've got something interesting is happening here. It's been positively dreadful as of late." She looked at the design board and smiled to herself at the initial concept of her newest masterpiece, the Gentle Prince. 5 days had passed in Ponyville, and in Naruto's opinion it couldn't have gone by any quicker. The days weren't awful, but he wasn't looking forward when Sunday had come along. The flight training with Rainbow Dash went over well, considering he jumped off the Apple family's barn about 50 times before finally understanding what he was doing wrong. Instead of letting his wings remain loose and adjustable to the patterns of the wind, he kept them rigid just as he used them to glide over Ponyville, and his lack of skill at gliding was the reason he was here in the first place. He laughed at the reasoning behind Dash's methods in her exact wording. "If you can't get yourself off the ground with those wings, then we need to find a way to make you stay in the air then." Which led him to start jumping off the Apple family's roof, trying to fly to a bale of hay. The plan seemed perfect in theory to both of them at least, but both forgot one basic thing he barely knew in the first place. After the first dozen attempts he crashed into one of the Apple family's golden delicious apple trees. This led to an impromptu argument between Dash and Naruto about wing adjustment, and that led to him finally figuring out to hover his body off the ground for brief moments, similar to what Fluttershy did according to Dash. Though his day didn't end as he picked himself off the ground, instead it was more of a nice noon before he stopped jumping off the barn. Dash had roped him in along with her into helping the Apple family with their harvesting, so Applejack would have time to help Granny Smith and Apple Bloom with the food for their family reunion and the summer sun celebration. This was more up his alley as Big Mac showed him what to do. Bucking trees was something that came all naturally for him. 2 bucks and he'd move on to the next tree, letting Dash swoop down and drag the baskets towards Big Mac, who carried them to the rest of the Apple family. The little group worked together for about 2 hours before going their separate ways. Another pony Naruto visited quite often was Fluttershy, and thankfully she was nice enough to treat the few wounds that still lingered on him. Despite his first protests, he gave in to the gentle Pegasi, but still promising to help her out, not taking no for an answer. The pony never raised voice even as the concern etched through her voice. He was grateful for the mare's kindness as she would stop whatever she was doing to help him. His duties usually consisted of helping the animals out from feeding or giving them some attention, as hers was preoccupied with the off-key songbird. Angel helped by rounding up the needed animals before taking off, something the blonde alicorn had come to expect. Naruto let the animals eat in peace and instead focusing on brightening their day until the caretaker arrived. Caretaker returned. He entertained the aquatic life, swimming with them as they nipped at his hooves, no doubt the most relaxing part of his day by far. It lasted for maybe an hour as Fluttershy came back accompanied with various birds, all looking tuckered out as Angel walked up to him, tapping his foot across the ground expecting something from the alicorn, which he happily replied with a quick splash, drenching the poor bunny as Naruto calmly walked out. He was careful to avoid Angel after that little trick, who knew bunnies could hold a grudge. Pinkie Pie was the next mare he would meet whether he wanted to or not. Her confetti cannon was a great deal breaker, in fact he still wanted to see the damn thing. Him meeting up with Pinkie Pie was a great way to meet the locals, though. She'd always drag him along delivering Sugarcube corner orders, which led to impromptu meetings. These meetings though either ended with a generous tip or the door being slammed into his face. Yep, he screamed popularity. Though the time was well spent nonetheless, so he chatted with the pink pony and even getting a few treats along the way. It really explained the constant ball of energy that Pinkie Pie was, and she was the only one that could help with his taste for sweets. The rest of his time was spent with Sweetie Belle and Rarity. He was very grateful to help them in any way possible for the hospitality, which usually involved watching Sweetie Belle and her friend Scootaloo. The 2 fillies took to him as Vanilla took to Cake. Both looked up to him like the brother they never had, and he was more than grateful to spend time with both fillies. Though it all stopped when Rarity asked Naruto for something. Usually it was him posing for her in some outfit, or helping her with dinner. Today though was him watching the fillies prance around him as he laughed while trying to catch one. "Come on girls, slow down, I'm not as good as your sister with magic, you know that." Both of them rang out in giggles, as they galloped past him. Running outside the boutique, he sighed to himself before heading to the door. "Rarity, I'm going out to play with the girls, call me if you need me." She didn't respond, too busy in finalizing the decorations for Celestia's arrival, and his mind was too preoccupied with the purple unicorn and what seemed to be a lizard hopping out of a hot air balloon with Canterlot stitched on the front of it. I don't think that they would be here that soon. The fillies watched with Naruto, both in awe of the method of transportation. "No Naruto, the princess is an alicorn like you. She must be here for something else." Sweetie Belle nodded to herself, as Scootaloo started to nod in agreement, almost in sync with her filly counterpart. "Well, if she's going to check on everything, then shouldn't someone help her?" All 3 of them nodded in agreement before a certain pair of fillies stared at Naruto. "By someone you mean me, don't you?" The 2 nodded again as he sighed and walked towards the 2 visitors. Twilight Sparkle was having a terrible day. First it started off at the Canterlot as she uncovered the mare in the moon who would come back on the longest day of the 1000th year, which was tomorrow. She even informed her mentor Princess Celestia about the matter, and all she got in return was a letter. It stated she believed her, but she needed to stop spending time with dusty old book and make some friends. The alicorn matter was stressed in the letter, even stating to meet him was another request from herself that went with supervising the preparations of the celebration along with the friend making, but she still saw little point in that endeavor along with handling the fake alicorn matter. So here she was in Ponyville, having the daylights scared out of her by some pink pony. Now Spike, let's go over the checklist. She looked at the purple baby dragon, as he combed over everything on the list. First we need to ask a pony about seeing Naruto Uzumaki, then head to Apple Acres and check on the catering. The lavender mare's eyes staring at the orange unicorn coming towards the duo, deciding to nip this alicorn business in the bud from the get-go. Hey mister, have you seen an alicorn around here? No, well thanks anyway, come on Spike, we're wasting time. The purple unicorn yelled as she started walking away, not even giving the blonde unicorn a chance to speak. Naruto trotted closer to the duo, frowning as the unicorn yelled at him. Hey, have you seen an alicorn around here? No, well thanks anyway, come on Spike, we're wasting time. He blinked as the purple mare started walking away, his face turning to one concentration before his horn glue with a vermilion red aura as it slowly grasped Twilight's tail. The startled mare bucked backwards trying to free herself from the aura's grip, being dragged up into the air. Miss, you didn't even let me answer. The scowl seemed to grow on Twilight's face as his magic lifted her higher into the air, meeting face to upside down face. Well, since you're so insistent, have you seen Naruto Uzumaki? She smiled as the name rolled off her tongue with dripping sarcasm, before a frown began to settle in as she took in his appearance, his wings beating at a slow pace as a constant pace, teasing the poor mare. You're the alicorn. He nodded as she slowly felt herself being lifted and lowered with each little movement from his head, her face turning into one of disbelief. Normally Naruto wouldn't flaunt him being equestrian royalty in all but name, this time was different though he felt compelled to prove his existence to the purple mare even if he didn't know her personally, like a social tic he had, and what really just pissed in his oats was anyone denying someone else's existence. Now since you know my name Miss Unicorn, could you tell me yours? He set her down upright as she gawked at his presence, folding both wings back as the lizard's emerald eyes studied him. Hey, I'm not here to cause any trouble, and I hope you both aren't either. Both nodded dumbly at him as he eyed the baby lizard thing. It looked real suspicious, I mean it walked on its hind legs pretty shady to Naruto already. I see, I didn't expect there to be an actual alicorn here, but still this doesn't change my duties. My name is Twilight Sparkle and this is my assistant Spike and he is a baby dragon, so stop staring at him. Her face beamed as he tried to compose himself, acting like she didn't see a thing. So Naruto, you're here for the summer sun celebration then? He nodded as she started her inspection of blonde alicorn, and with a quick shake of her head she came to the conclusion that he was truly an alicorn. She needed to be sure it wasn't the first time that a pony attempted to be one. In fact Canterlot got the crazies about every second Sunday of each month. While she thought little of the annoying posers, Celestia would get a quick chuckle before sorting the fake alicorn ordeal out. She felt slightly in awe as she stood before him, but it was nothing compared to her mentor Princess Celestia. Then a sudden idea hit her, maybe he could help with Nightmare Moon. After all, he was an alicorn. Nightmare Moon was an alicorn, so who better to beat the nefarious mare than an alicorn? Naruto, would you mind helping me with something? He slowly nodded as he backed away from Twilight, the gleam in her eye only spelled trouble, similar to the first time he had met Rarity. Well, come on then, I need your help first with something Princess Celestia tasked me with. Twilight insisted on Naruto showing them the way to Apple Acres, as he rolled his eyes and began leading the way. Naruto was starting to regret listening to the two fillies. It wasn't like he was glad the unicorn wanted his help, but he was starting to feel more like a cupcake in front of Pinkie Pie. Neither stood a chance. That all changed as the three of them walked up to Applejack. The purple mare's studious nature didn't stand a chance against the Apple family's hospitality, and even if she did, Apple Bloom was more than enough with one pouty look. He just watched the family crowd around her as he and Big Mac stood back watching the mare eat each of their family members' specialties. 2 bits, she eats it all, Big Mac. Both nodded in agreement, as they turned toward the focus of their bet. Both stallions couldn't help but laugh as the unicorn practically shoveled the food into her mouth as everyone watched her, before letting out a belch, blowing a few curious family members away. "Ha, told ya, Big Mac, no one pony is ever going to put down anything from any Apple family member, your food's too good." He smiled to himself as Big Mac pulled out the 2 bits from his harness and mumbled something about cheating blondes and delicious fritters. Well, I'd love to stay and spend these well-earned bits, but it seems Twilight's leaving and I need to go show her around. So tell Applejack I said bye. The alicorn trotted away along with Twilight and Spike to their next destination. Spike, take a note, Apple Acres Farm while having delicious pastries, I won't be visiting there anytime soon. The unicorn mare didn't expect to ever visit Ponyville ever again, but that was a different matter altogether. What's next on the agenda, Spike? The purple unicorn nodded as she listened to Spike tell her the next stop was weather, and apparently a Pegasus pony named Rainbow Dash wasn't doing a good job. Crash. Now instead of feeling stuffed from that last fritter she ate, she could feel her head scream in pain, along with the taste of mud to complement. Naruto's view on this particular scene was a bit jaded at this point. He was seeing deja vu all over again, but this time he wasn't the one suffering from the pain of having a rainbow mare slam into him at Mach speed, or covered in mud either. Now if only he could get the two mares to wrestle, then he'd say this was truly the best day in his life by far. Sup, Rainbow, don't tell me you still haven't perfected that trick by now. The blonde looked at the cyan Pegasus expecting a reply in the form of nope, I was just testing out the landing for my newest trick, that neither of you have seen before. But all he received was a nod in the form of a yes. So I can't tell Scootaloo about your recent failings then. He got another nod. Both knew the little filly looked up to her, and it was apparent when she usually asked Naruto to spend time with her watching the cyan mare practice her tricks when Naruto watched over the two fillies. He watched as Rainbow Dash picked herself off the ground and slightly laughed at the fallen unicorn's plight. Twilight Sparkle, I would like you to meet Rainbow Dash, my flight teacher. Twilight just mumbled to herself as she let the Pegasus try to make things better for her. First came a cloud that had its watery contents emptied, which cleansed the unicorn of any mud and feeling of tasting the apple fritters a second time. Then Naruto nudged Spike backwards as the Pegasus began her patented rain blow dry, which made Twilight look more ridiculous than before, getting a few laughs from a Vapony nearby and a baby dragon/assistant as well. Your Rainbow Dash, why haven't you cleared the skies of the clouds yet? She expected something along the lines of a noble excuse such as helping the citizens of Ponyville with their problems, but what she got was a different story altogether. I'll get it done in a jiffy just as soon as I'm done practicing my newest trick. Sadly, the unicorn wanted to know what was so important that this silly little Pegasi wanted to skip over the fact that the ruler of Equestria was visiting Ponyville tomorrow. Practicing for what, may I pray tell? She could literally see the alicorn roll his eyes as each word came from her mouth. I am practicing for the Wonderbolts, they are going to perform here tomorrow and I'm going to show them my skills. The boasting was complemented with a mid-flight somersault while landing on the cloud behind her. Twilight would admit she had a little skill in the flight department. The Wonderbolts, the most talented flyers in Equestria, pleased they'd never accept a Pegasus that couldn't even keep the sky clear for one measly day. Twilight watched Naruto roll his eyes again as the Pegasus proved her point by clearing the sky in 10 seconds flat. She left the two Canterlot locals with their jaw dropped, trying to regain some sort of coherent thought, and Naruto trying to snap them both out of their daze. The next stop was at the town's center building. While Naruto swore up and down that the decor for the party was going to be nothing less of perfection, one Canterlot local though preferred to inspect the decor with her own eyes, hence why he was carrying a love-struck baby dragon back to Rarity's boutique. Again Naruto had a feeling of deja vu as he watched Rarity insisting on fixing Twilight's mane as soon as she caught sight of it. So here he was back home and watching a unicorn visibly cringe as Rarity tightened the girdle on her. Rarity, I know you have free time now, but Scootaloo and Sweetie Belle are probably chasing Rainbow Dash to see her complete her newest trick. He'd let Twilight off the hook for now, she needed to get things done and he wanted to get in a chat with the unicorn about Celestia. While one unicorn fretted over Rainbow Dash teaching her sister and her sister's filly friend anything, the other three residents had escaped and began the search for Fluttershy, the mare in charge of music. Man, when she figures out I lied to her I'm so dead, maybe Fluttershy can spot me a room for a day or two, or at least Dash will now that I have a chance of reaching her place. Naruto would worry about it later, instead he'd pray to Celestia the little white lie would make itself true. Twilight was impressed with how the music sounded orchestrated from the shy Pegasus. She just wished the mare didn't encourage Spike to go through his whole life story. And that's been my life so far, well, all except today. You want to hear about that? The unicorn felt her sanity slipping as she listened to Spike talk about his life. It wouldn't have been so bad if she wasn't there for every story he had. So she kicked Spike off, letting him crash into the ground with a dull thud. I'm sorry, but little Spiky Wikey needs his sleep, see he can't even stay on top of me. So I'm going to tuck little Spike in, while Naruto and I need to talk about something important, so goodbye Fluttershy. She smiled at the pale yellow Pegasi as she dragged both of them into the library before slamming the door, leaving the Pegasi alone in the dark night. Every pony's sight became dark as Twilight had slammed the door shut and Naruto braced himself for what was to come. It could only be one thing: a Pinkie Pie party. He prepared himself as Twilight turned on the lights, and lo, and behold, he was right. So being like any pony that wanted to relax at a Pinkie party, he just faded into the background mingling with other ponies. Surprise, were you surprised? Ha, ha ha, I mean, if you were surprised then my surprise party would be a success. The unicorn had actually replied, and Naruto started his mental clock to see how long it would be before Pinkie Pie stopped talking to catch her breath. It was more of a game to him, and as long as he was stuck with Archie and Hazelton he'd be safe from being dragged into the conversation. Boring. Now I was the first one that saw you when you got here, remember? You were all like hello and I was all like oha, remember? I never saw you before, so that must mean you're new, because I know every pony, and I mean every pony in Ponyville. And if you're new you hadn't met anyone yet, and if you hadn't met anyone yet then you must not have any friends, and if you don't have any friends that must make you a lonely pony, which makes me so sad. So I had an idea, so that's why I went oha, so I decided to have a great big super ginormous welcome party that I invited everyone in Ponyville. See, and now you have lots and lots of friends. Naruto's mental clock timed out at 10 seconds before she stopped for a breath, give or take a few seconds. Sadly, due to Twilight's lack of attentiveness, she had poured herself a nice drink of Pinkie Pie's extra hot sauce, and with one sip was all she wrote for the poor mare as she took to the nearest water source. Twilight had it. First of all, she just wanted to be left alone and figure a way to stop Nightmare Moon and learn about the elements of harmony, but no, some ponies wanted to try and be her friend. She didn't have time for friends. The world was going to be gone after tomorrow, or all the sunlight would disappear in the very least. So here she was holed up in her room at 1:20 in the morning with a party still going on, and she was willing to bet it was all thanks to that pink pony. All the ponies in this town are crazy. She vented on the lifeless pillow, stomping on it to relieve much needed stress. Tap, 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 and now she was hearing things. Oh great, what was going to happen next? Nightmare Moon was actually Princess Celestia's sister, ha, fat chance. So the unicorn did the only thing she could do at the moment, and that was watch the moon, while Naruto's flank blocking the moon to be exact, and with that image burned into her head she let the alicorn into her room via window. Why were you flying outside my window, Naruto? She stared on at the blue eyes of his before she planted her hoof in his mouth. Never mind that, I need you to listen to me, Naruto, you're my only hope since no one else will believe me. So she began to tell the Naruto everything she knew, and when she finished, all that she could see in his eyes was fierce determination. That's it, Naruto, unless we find the elements of harmony by sundown tomorrow we are all doomed. She panicked as the reality of the situation came crashing down on her. It would be almost impossible to find the elements of harmony before sundown tomorrow. Twilight, I'll do something only a few ponies get from me. I promise when Nightmare Moon comes I'll beat her so bad I'll knock her into the next galaxy. The mayor smiled at she declaration. Maybe he'd find a way to beat Nightmare Moon, but it didn't matter right now because he trusted her, so she would do the same in him. Naruto's gaze turned towards the moon. He steadied his resolve as he swore to Twilight to defeat Nightmare Moon. Thanks, Naruto, I'm glad you believe me. He didn't mind the small show of affection as she wrapped her hooves around his frame. He hugged the mare back. It was all he could do for her at the moment. We just need to find the elements of harmony before sundown tonight, then you won't have to fight Nightmare Moon then, or I could Princess Celestia to help you out. He ignored Twilight as she trailed off into a rant, instead wondering what would it take to put her down this time. Don't get me started on library upkeep, it isn't hard if you know what you're doing. The moon felt so hypnotizing. For each second he stared at the shape of the mare etched into the moon, and then the image slowly faded away as he slowly fell asleep. The mare stopped talking as she felt Naruto pressing against, and as soon as Twilight released her hug the alicorn fell to the ground with a nice plop, before he picked himself off the wooden floor. Naruto, are you okay? You fell asleep while I was talking to you. She let a held breath as he nodded and thanked her for the gesture, before heading towards the window. Naruto, surely the door would be easier for you. I mean, you don't have anything. Again the unicorn's protest fell on deaf ears as the alicorn jumped out of her window towards the ground. Naruto, wait, come back, Celestia's coming soon, you should be here to meet her. Twilight jumped for joy when he stopped at the mention of Princess Celestia. He turned back and with a crimson glow he locked her window and headed off to who knows where. The last thought in her mind was the dull look in Naruto's eyes, and the remaining time before the sun came up in 60 minutes. Naruto stopped himself as he left Twilight long back at the library, his mind finally coming out of its trance-like state. The clearing bristled with a strong cold gust as he stood before the ever-free forest. It was much scarier looking at it, the mythical crore-filled forest at night. So why am I out here? Let's see, I was talking to Twilight and then I got bored listening to her talk about the Canterlot Library, so I looked at the mare's shape on the moon, then everything went fuzzy after the picture of the mare disappeared. Yeah, that was the gist of everything that happened, so why was he here? Thou do jest, I see an alicorn in my presence, but not my dearest sister which I sought after for so long. Who stands before I speak swiftly, or suffer my wrath? His eyes looked around him trying to find the source of the voice as a violet mist settled in the clearing. So you refuse my royal acquisition, the audacity of your actions shall not go unpunished. Naruto stared in awe as the violet mist began to rise into the shape of a wave. He braced himself as the mist washed over him like a rippling wave. Beset your gaze on the mightiest alicorn in all of Equestria, 'tis I, Nightmare Moon. The mist dissipated from around Naruto and there stood the owner of the mist's voice. The very dark cerulean coat glowed against her shimmering dark violet mane and tail as it seemed the stars were infused within it themselves. Her horn glowed with an ominous cobalt blue aura that set off her monstrously large wings stretched themselves. Naruto's eyes met the cat-like blue eyes, both waiting for anything to happen, and then the moon mare decided her next course of action. Are you amazed at such Riga? She never had the chance to finish as Naruto slammed his body into the mare, never letting off the downed mare's presence. He shot a vermilion ripple of magic at her, watching the downed mare's form slide backwards, landing back on her hooves. You dare challenge me, even as you are beneath my station. So I shall show weak you truly are. Her horn glowed as Naruto prepared another charge at the alicorn, before he froze mid-hoof, surrounded in Nightmare Moon's magical aura. Oh ho, you actually thought you stood a chance, how fortuitous that your barbaric tendencies led to your downfall. I thous require your name to be used as an example for these peasants. The alicorn of the night pulled Naruto closer, smirking at the foolish actions of her own kind, before he spit across her face with a grin spread across his own. The alicorn that spit in your face and the stallion that is about to kick your flank all over Equestria is me, Naruto Bucken Uzumaki. The proud blonde alicorn's grin fell flat as he was thrown magically into the air as he stood high above the trees. Thou's death will doeth me no justice, instead I shall revel in this mediocre task. Goodbye Naruto Uzumaki, may you know your place amongst the peasant of the afterlife. The violet alicorn's horn glowed with a cobalt aura before a deafening explosion erupted from where Naruto once was held. Thou's reaped what thine sows, and now on to more grave matters, addressing the denizens of my lunar kingdom. She laughed as she flew off, ready to make her grand appearance. Naruto felt pain as the explosion sent him flying, his body racked with pain as he braced himself for impact like Rainbow Dash had taught him, hoping that he didn't die. The impact wasn't as brief as the alicorn would have hoped for. Each time he even touched the ground he found himself skipped off of it and sent back into the air, before returning to the ground. A wave of pain shot through his body each time he hit the dirt before finally he stopped and crashed into the ground. He didn't bother moving when he stopped. The only thing he could feel at the moment was the intense pain everywhere, not taking into account that he just ragdolled across the outskirts of Ponyville. Nightmare Moon's magical induced explosion had really done a number on his body. In fact, he pretty sure some of his feathers were gone thanks to it. Not that the fact mattered, since he was sure both were broken. Never again. I'm never going to think of spitting in the face of any pony if this is what's going to happen to me. Come on Naruto, I can do this, just need to warn Twilight, then get back at Nightmare Doof. His body tried desperately to push himself upright, and as soon he did he fell to his right, bringing the pain he bottled up back in full force and promptly blacking out. Twilight sighed. Twilight thoughts went back and forth on the alicorn issue. Nightmare Moon was due any time today when the moon was up, and it was already 5:45 a.m. so that meant by Twilight's calculations 6 hours and 30 more minutes until the day was up and Nightmare Moon would be sealed in the moon for another 1,000 years. She could only hope that Celestia would come soon, even a little early, for the summer sun celebration. Her gaze turned towards the clock again. Only a minute had passed by. "Twilight, you up? It's time to watch the sunrise." She watched her assistant excited knock off the lamp shade, waiting for her to join him. "Come on Twilight, stop worrying about an old pony's tail." She hoped to Celestia that Spike was right just this one time, not once looking at the moon as she left her room. Twilight looked on at the countless Pegasi, unicorns and earth ponies standing in City Hall, waiting for Twilight's cherished mentor to appear and raise the sun. Spike riding her back as a horse, before pointing to a familiar pink pony running towards them. "Isn't this exciting?" "Are you excited?" "'Cause I'm excited. I've never been so excited, oh, except for the time I saw you walking in the town and I was like hoo-hoo, but really who can top that?" Twilight was thankful that the music started so soon, saving her from trying to keep up with the hyper Pinkie Pie. The spotlight dropped to a single earth pony as she looked proud to be introducing Princess Celestia. "Fillies and gentle colts. As mayor of Ponyville, it is my great pleasure to announce the beginning of the summer sun celebration." A loud cheer erupted from the ponies of Ponyville, each and every pony excited about the festival to come. "In just a few moments, our town will witness the magic of the sunrise, and celebrate this, the longest day of the year. Now it is my great honor to introduce to you the ruler of our land, the pony who gives us the sun and the moon each and every day, the good, the wise, the bearer of harmony to all of Equestria, Princess Celestia." Twilight's mind was racing at this point. She snuck one glance at the moon. Already in the mare head was gone. This was bad, really bad. She wasn't surprised when Celestia wasn't there as Rarity pulled the curtains. She was probably battling Nightmare Moon alongside Naruto as Twilight stood here doing nothing. "Remain calm every pony, there must be a reasonable explanation." Pinkie Pie hopped up and down as she spewed out guesses why Celestia wasn't there. "She's gone," Rarity said to the confused pony crowd, and Twilight felt herself shrink as Pinkie Pie took a deep gasp at the violet mist that started covering the balcony where Celestia was to reside. "Oh no, Nightmare Moon." The weight off her back disappeared as Spike fainted and fell to the ground. "Oh my little avid subjects, it's been so long since I seen your precious little sun-loving faces." Every pony cowered before Nightmare Moon's gaze. Twilight was genuinely surprised as Rainbow Dash was the first to speak out against Nightmare Moon. "What did you do with our princess?" She watched as the cyan mare tried attacking the alicorn as Applejack held her at bay and wrangled the Pegasus in from meeting her untimely end at one of the alicorn's magical attacks. "Muhihihahaha. Am I not royal enough for you? Don't any of you ponies know who I am?" This time Pinkie Pie was the next to rise at her inquiry as Applejack swiftly stuffed a cupcake in the pony's mouth. "Does my crown no longer count, now that I've been imprisoned for 1,000 years? Did you not recall the legend? Did no pony see the signs of my return?" She had enough of the royal alicorn picking on the citizens of Ponyville. "I did, I know who you are the mare in the moon, Nightmare Moon." Twilight ignored the gasps of the ponies behind her, instead glaring at Evil Mare. Well. Some pony remembers me, then you must know why I'm here." The unicorn's voice started to falter as the alicorn laughed at her pitiful attempt. "Remember this day, little ponies, as it were your last. From this moment forth the night shall last forever." The violet mist swirled around her as lightning struck randomly inside the building. "No, you're not. When Naruto gets here he's going to kick your flank in 10 seconds flat." The crowd gasped as one little filly walked out from under the curtains. "Naruto's the strongest and kindest pony I know, so no way some moon mare knight is going to beat him." Twilight smiled as another filly stood next to her and stared at the alicorn with only the slightest fear in both of their eyes. "Yes, Sweetie Belle's right, no one can beat Naruto." Ponyville collectively nodded at the mention of the blonde alicorn. Did he inspire that much in the people of this town for two fillies to foolishly challenge an alicorn, as she approached them both one hoof at a time? Did this Naruto have a mane and tail that of a bright blonde color while his coat resembled something of your coat, little filly? Twilight and the rest of Ponyville could only watch as the Pegasus filly gnawed slowly. Good, now young Sweetie Belle wasn't it this Naruto, he was an alicorn was he not? The unicorn filly nodded staring at who seemed to be Rarity in concern, as the seamstress mare eyes glared daggers at the back of Nightmare Moon. I see well I recall facing an alicorn of that definite description and name. The alicorn let the residents of Ponyville talk to themselves as she just listened to their small chatter. Then what happened to Naruto Miss Moonlight Mare? A third filly stood next to the two fillies as she looked on at Nightmare Moon. Twilight was personally thinking that the fillies were intentionally teasing the proverbial dragon at this point. The name is Nightmare Moon, you intolerable foals, and do you really want to know what happened to your precious Naruto? The fillies all nodded in fear this time as she stood defiantly over them all. It's simple really, I blew the insufferable idiot up like I'll do to anyone that stands in my way. Any further questions, little foals? Twilight's heart sank at Nightmare Moon's proud declaration of Naruto's death, and the fillies bawled out in tears as the alicorn laughed at each sob coming from the poor fillies. Before going back to the balcony she made her grand entrance on. Some pony arrest her, only she knows where the princess is. The mayor proclaimed, and as swiftly as the royal guards rose Nightmare Moon swatted them all away as if all they were gnats, before swirling back into a violet mist and leaving the town hall. Twilight watched Rainbow Dash break free of Applejack's grip and dashed off to chase after the violet mist. Twilight looked at the remaining ponies, each confused or dealing with some sort of breakdown, and the few sane ones left were staring right at her. Well, look at the time I got to tuck Spike since he's a baby and all, so by every pony. Twilight lifted the baby dragon into the air and took off galloping back to her temporary library home. She tucked Spike in as fast as she could after she arrived, wasting no time in searching for a book on the elements of harmony. Elements, where is that book? I can't defeat Nightmare Moon without the elements of harmony. Her horn glowed with an ethereal glow as she sorted through books left and right trying to find some sort of clue. And just what are the elements of harmony? And how did you know about Nightmare Moon? Are you a spy? The rainbow-maned Pegasus came crashing into the library, her eyes teary as she glared Twilight down, making random accusations against the studious mare. Simmer down, Sally. She ain't no spy, but she sure knows what's going on, don't ya, Twilight? Twilight stared at the earth pony that barged right in along with a few other ponies, all staring her down. I read all about the prediction of Nightmare Moon's own mysterious objects called the elements of harmony are the only thing that can stop her, but I don't know what they are, where to find them. I don't even know what they do. Twilight broke her gaze away from the group of watchful eyes to stare at the moon. The Elements of Harmony, a reference guide. Twilight's eyes turned toward the pink mare before bumping her out of the way. Where did you find it? The pink mare bounced around telling the unicorn it was under E in a sing-song voice. Thank you, Pinkie Pie. Now there are 6 elements of harmony, but only 5 are known. Kindness, laughter, generosity, honesty, and loyalty. The 6th is a complete mystery. It is said that the last location of the 5 elements are in the ancient castle of the Pony Sisters. It is now located in what is known as the Everfree Forest. Twilight along with the rest of the other ponies felt scared as she read the Everfree Forest aloud, as one violet cloud of mist went off into the night sky towards the Everfree Forest itself, missing the body of Naruto Uzumaki. Now to defeat that marish rogue and make her tell us where she is hiding Naruto. 4 of the 6 Maras nodded in agreement at Rarity's proclamation, while Twilight stared on in disbelief. Didn't you hear Nightmare Moon tell every pony she blew him up? She watched the Maras glare at her before Rarity stepped forward. I don't know how things are done in Canterlot, dear Twilight Sparkle, but I am not one to believe what some charlatan says about Naruto unless he has some proof of the action. He is very much alive and I will bet my boutique on that claim. She ignored the collective gasps from the ponies around her, instead focusing on Twilight just begging for her to make some sort of statement. Well then, come on every pony, we all need to be heading towards the Everfree Forest now, don't we? Rarity smiled briefly before heading out the door, ensuring that no pony saw the look of concern on her face. A few minutes later, Twilight found herself standing before the Everfree Forest along with 5 other Maras. The frightful-looking forest wasn't their looks of concern at the moment. All 6 Maras' attention was on one sole alicorn before them. See, I told you, Twilight, nothing can kill that thick-headed alicorn. Rarity smiled at the breathing form of Naruto, but a wave of concern washed over her as she inspected his fallen form. What do you suppose happened to him, Rarity? Every pony knew what happened and Twilight was sure of that fact. Well, come on then, Twilight, lead the way now, I'll be right behind you all very shortly. The others sputtered as she lifted the alicorn with her magic, taking a few steps, keeping pace with the ponies, ignoring the protests of one pony in particular. Put him down, Rarity, you might injure him more. Twilight's protest rang true as she glared at Rarity. Twilight, I'm not going to leave Naruto behind while each of us move forward, it's not fair or safe. Twilight was sure that it was more for the sake of herself than Naruto's own safety. Rarity, please, we can't carry him through Everfree Forest, it's not safe. Twilight pleaded to the poor mare before she watched Rarity set Naruto down gently. Twilight, please let me bring him along, anything that happens to him, I'll take personal responsibility for his safety, so please Twilight, let me bring Naruto along. Twilight stopped in her tracks. She didn't have the heart to tell her no after the heartfelt plea, and it seemed like no one else minded that she brought Naruto. Fine, but you all don't need to come with me, I'm perfectly capable handling this all by myself. This time it was the 5 Mares to take a step forward. Now Sugar Cube, we're your friends and we'll stand by you, okay, now let's get going, so we can take Naruto back to the hospital. The lavender unicorn smiled as they trotted alongside her into the Everfree Forest, all intending on finding the elements of harmony and to defeat Nightmare Moon. Naruto's body screamed in pain as he picked himself up off the ground, his eyes fluttered, adjusting himself to the surrounding area. It was all white, and then with a flash everything changed into a familiar sight. It was Ponyville. His thoughts went straight from where to Twilight defeating Nightmare Moon with the elements of harmony. With that little tidbit he smiled. She was beaten and everything would go back to normal here in Ponyville. Now where is every pony? I figured they'd be out celebrating the Summer Sun Festival. He looked towards the small village as it started to shimmer, as a door appeared into existence in front of him. The alicorn's surprise was matched only by the sheer size of the door. His face looked on at the intricate design on the door. It was a giant fox with 8 glowing red tails and one black as dead as the door that it was carved into. His mind told him to run as he looked on at the beast, but he felt a calling at the same time. What is this thing? His mind raced as another tail lost its ethereal glow and dimmed into a black similar to the other tail. Quite beautiful, isn't it, Naruto Uzumaki? Naruto turned his head and body towards the voice. His eyes fell on nothing as though the voice never existed. I called this masterpiece the Kyubi no Yoko, but it needs a more fitting name, don't you think? How about Kurama? It has a nice ring to it. Do you have any thoughts on the matter, Naruto? His body turned back towards the door as he finally saw the owner of the voice. It was a small Pegasus mare standing confidently in front of him. The mare's coat was a deep violet color as her vermilion eyes settled on him. Her mane was a deep crimson red, reminding him of the blood he tasted inside of his mouth. Her tail was a different story altogether. It seemed to split into 2 each time it moved, but every time it remained still the 2 tails seemed to fuse back into one. The tail was strange as it was on the mare's body, but even stranger was her cutie mark. Was a picture of his face on her damn flank, whiskers, marks and all. This unsettled him to the core as her mouth began to move. Well, I was hoping for something along the lines as well, Miss. The giant fox is a bit much, don't you think? With my curt reply, something along the lines, Naruto, please, this is my passion. I enjoy drawing powerful beings since I never have anything else to do until you came here. Then we'd hash things out over small talk before we get down to the gritty details. The Pegasus smiled at him as she politely waited for him to speak up. Naruto's mind raced at everything she said. He didn't give a damn about the stupid fox. His mind wanted to know where the buck he was at and who the hey she was and what is up with that cutie mark. No, that not what I'm going to say. What I want to say is, who are you, where is every pony, and why do you a picture of my face on your damn flank? His voice raised a tone as the Pegasus looked on uninterested before beginning to stretch. I'll answer your questions since it is why I am here for you. Naruto stared at the Pegasus as she floated towards the top of the fox door. My name is Senna and well, to be honest, we're not even here in Ponyville, that is why there is no ponies around her, capiche? The Pegasus rolled her hooves around as she made gestures of Naruto to come towards her. Yeah, he wasn't going to trust some crazy Pegasus. To be honest, we are now somewhere inside the ever-free forest in the real world, that is, at least I don't keep track of little things like that, but on the flip side of things we are inside your mind because you know you got your flank handed to you by Nightmare Moon. It wasn't pretty and all you did was meet little old me. As flattering as it seems, we were supposed to meet under more natural terms, like once you met Princess Celestia, but you kinda scrapped that plan now, didn't ya? He didn't know how to respond to anything he was just told. Now he was in the ever-free forest when he remembered landing just outside of it, and this Senna didn't seem to have a care for him being in T situation. For your last question, Naruto, the reason your wonderful face is on my flank is because cue drumroll, I am your guardian Pegasus. Naruto's train of thought stopped at that. Guardian Pegasus? Why in the name of Celestia would he need a guardian Pegasus? He watched her drop to the ground in a grandiose fashion for the alicorn. Yes, this Pegasus was definitely weird, and not the Pinkie Pie good kind of weird either. Okay, I give. What is a guardian Pegasus? The mare stepped forward, her chest puffed proudly as she held her head high. As a guardian Pegasus, it is my job to make sure that you don't tap into all of your magical reserve and go mad with power and probably destroy all of Equestria. Naruto's blinked his eyes a few times as it seemed that Senna graciously made a pointer appear into her hooves out of thin air, with a thick pair of glasses to go along for the added effect. So I regulate your magical flow with my expertly painted door. You see, Kurama, as I like to call him, is the barrier between you and like a monstrous amount of magical energy. The tails represent how much magic you're allowed to access. If I gave it to you all at once, well, as I said, things wouldn't be too pretty for Equestria or any pony for that matter, but don't despair. By strengthening your body, morals, and most importantly time can help you break past these limitations and gain access to another tail. Yeah, this was going over his head, magical energy, and the fact that a Pegasus was doing magic in the first place confused him, and he was sure this wasn't one of the things that he had learnt earlier on in his life either. Now when you come back here, and I can assure you will be doing that quite a bit, please note that when a tail of my beautiful painting turns black, that means you gain access to another part of magic, so now you can use about 1/5 of your actual magical energy, so be proud. The Pegasus stopped as she let her rambling process itself in ahead of Naruto, and did it ever, the pointer and glasses disappearing a puff of smoke. God, he hated thinking on this. Why did he have so much magic, and if his magic was so dangerous to Equestria, wouldn't him being able to get access to more of it be dangerous to every pony around him, which definitely made Naruto believe that he was a danger to Ponyville. So what you're saying is that I'm a danger to everyone around me then? He watched the Pegasus nod slowly before whipping her mane back and forth as if she was listening to some song. You don't dance around the subject, do you? Again she nodded, her hooves moving at some pace. Sadly, her happy mood went unnoticed as Naruto went further into depression. If he was such a danger, then maybe being in the ever-free forest was good for him. He knew that now. Thanks for being honest with me, I guess. She stopped mid-hoof before her eyes set firmly on him again. She wanted to say something, but it seemed to Naruto it was only words of condolence. It's alright, Senna, I just need some time to think. The Pegasus stopped mid-track in her own dance. This was seriously going downhill fast. If Naruto thought on something, this meant it was deep, and anything deep meant that it was going to probably destroy the stupid alicorn's self-confidence, and that was absolutely the last thing she needed. Gaara, back when he was a human, practically destroyed the blonde when they battled. If it wasn't for previous battle and the words Haku told Naruto before they fought, Senna was sure that he would have died a nameless death. She needed to fix this fast and now. So Naruto, tell me what's got you down, huh? Is it because I'm not an entertaining host? I get that a lot. Well, not a lot to be exact, because you're the first, so now it's like 100% ratio that I am a bad host, which is kind of a bummer if you think about it now. The Pegasus glanced at Naruto, trying to get some sort of reaction. Even the slightest show of sympathy would give her the opening so Naruto would confide in her. It was a foolproof plan and Naruto fell right into it. Sorry, Senna, it isn't you. It's just, what am I supposed to do? My magic, if it's so powerful, then I shouldn't be around any pony or anywhere near Ponyville or any place for that matter. Naruto's mind thought of every pony and how to tell them, and each time it brought him deeper into depression. That was what he was concerned about, his magic hurting people. That'd be how he used it, because there was no way that idiot was getting access of any more of magic anytime soon. So that's why you're so glum. God, I thought it was you was something more morally debilitating, like you're scared of Nightmare Moon. Being scared of yourself, please, that's nothing. Do I need to explain the difference between your accessible magic and what you can't touch? She looked on as he nodded, hoping for some sort of good news as she slammed an apple into his jaw. Okay, let me put this in perspective. Rarity is this apple, and my left hoof is you using your magic. Watch my hoof closely or you'll miss the demonstration. Naruto's eyes followed the hoof as it slowly surrounded the apple before gently touching it, then stopping as she put her hoof down. That's it, I was expecting something insightful since you act like you know a lot, but instead all I got was you touching a damn apple. How is that helping at all? He felt anger at her. How dare she toy with him, this was serious. He could see the mare tremble as he glared at her. Naruto didn't care, he just wanted a bucking answer. Well, is that it, or do you have something else up your hoof, or was everything else a bunch of crap like you trembling as I raised my voice? His voice faltered as the Pegasus mare stopped trembling and began laughing. Oh my god, this is so funny, I really was hoping to see you angry, but god, this is so rich. Are you ready for it, Naruto? I'm going to show you why I'm here. Naruto stopped as the Pegasus mare stomped on the ground, destroying the apple under her left hoof, all mirth lost in her eyes as all that remained was a serious resolute. That's what happens to the ponies of Equestria if I wasn't here. You're a noble alicorn with morals that every pony that should be proud of, but I fear even with such resolution you'd lose yourself to the intoxicating power as many ponies of Equestria have done before. I can't make a promise of you obtaining all of your magic because you might never meet the requirements of my standards and that of your body, but I have faith in you to overcome my expectations for you, like the Maras carrying your body through the ever-free forest have faith in you to wake up. He didn't respond, he just stopped in his tracks. This single Pegasus told him that he was the reason she was here and people counted on him. You don't have to carry the weight of Equestria on your shoulders, Naruto, just be there for your friends is all I ask. He looked on at the Pegasus as she raised a hoof and clunked him on his head. Now it's time for you to wake up, your friends want to talk to you and you need to see the elements of harmony, Naruto. Now another thing, you can't mention me to any pony, Naruto, no matter what, do you understand? Naruto nodded as Senna stood over him. This time he felt fear as he watched Senna raise her hooves and slammed her hooves into his head, effectively knocking the alicorn out or killing. Senna never paid much mind to the details. Well, that settles that. Now on two more concerning matters. The Pegasus flipped her hair towards the door as the fox inscribed on it began to move before giving a utteral roar of protest, promising pain to come. Calm down, stupid fox, I have this handled. It's bad enough that I have to deal with your personality, but I have to manage 3 other ones as well, and the fact that I'm the only sane one out of the bunch isn't really helping that much either. She ignored the fox giving her the evil eye as 2 more doors appeared, one with the insignia of Konoha on it and the other opened. Now on to real matter, how to keep the memories behind this door from leaking out. The mare's eyes glazed as she stared at the open door, trying to figure out some way to protect Naruto from the horrible truth that he died. You know, Kurama, I miss him already, but he'll be back, and by Celestia he better not get his damn cutie mark soon. The Pegasus glanced at her flank and sighed as she had work to do if she wanted that to stay next time he visited. Back with Naruto, the first thing Naruto did as he regained consciousness was scream, and to any of the other 6 Maras it sounded quite feminine. Celestia be damned if wait, why am I not in crippling pain? He put that thought on the back burner for now, as 5 of the 6 Maras gathered around him waiting for him to push himself off the ground. So I take it Nightmare Moon was defeated and we're in the ever-free forest. Was to give myself a brief tour of the place. He wished the joke went over well. The concerned Maras, as they crowded around him, his cerulean eyes met. One white unicorn stared at him in particular, and the one thing his eyes stared at was the short stub of a tail. I see, so I take that your attempt at humor is some way of apologizing to us and the ponies of Ponyville. Well, I'll wait for something sensible to come from you, but until then please aid Twilight with these elements of harmony, so we may leave this dreadful place. Rarity's voice was full of concern as she glanced at him. Her worry faded as righteous anger took its place. Naruto was indeed fortunate that Nightmare Moon took priority over his well-being. So are these the elements of harmony? What now, Twilight? The alicorn approached the lavender unicorn as she was deep in thought, both concerned over the threat Nightmare Moon held over all of Equestria. Well, this is real productive, Twilight, do you have any ideas at all? He got no answer as his faith in these stone spheres diminished every second that passed by. He was more sure that the sphere were more likely rocks than the real elements of harmony. His thoughts stopped as the rest of the Maras decided to join them on this little powwow. I have one idea, Naruto. The book said that when all 5 elements are gathered in place, a spark will cause the 6th element to appear. Every pony stand back, I don't know what will happen. The 5 Mares took a few steps back before eventually turning away to give Twilight the space she needed to do whatever was required. Naruto stayed behind for curiosity's sake. If she was going to make the elements appear, then he was going to see the whole damn show. He watched Twilight's face became one of concentration as her horn began to glow. Naruto's eyes watched as a violet mist started to surround the spheres before becoming a swirling vortex, lifting the elements off the ground. Twilight, hurry, we got trouble. Naruto watched as the unicorn furrowed her brow in concentration before being thrown into the swirling vortex along with Naruto, before disappearing from the room. Twilight's coughing could be heard over the ringing in his ears and the smoke clouding his sight. The alicorn waited for the smoke to disappear as he stood before Nightmare Moon herself. Oh my, I didn't expect to see you standing, let alone alive, Naruto Uzumaki. Now I see you foolishly wish to oppose me again, and you brought a mare along, how charming. Naruto didn't do anything as Moon Mare let the spheres drop to the ground as she glanced at Twilight stomping her hoof on the ground preparing to charge. You're kidding, right? The unicorn's horn glowed with a bright light as she began her charge. Naruto watched the alicorn start charging towards Twilight as well. Naruto's eyes turned away as they collided, only to be rammed by Nightmare Moon herself before a vermilion aura stopped her from completely turning towards Twilight. Unhand me, you fool, I'll destroy you where you stand. The griping of the Moon Mare stopped as Naruto's hind hooves slammed into her face, blood dripping down her mouth. So have you ever been a bucking bag? The alicorn's head slowly mouthed a no, as he held her head in place with his vermilion aura, before slamming his hind hooves repeatedly into her face. With each kick, Naruto was sure there was another bruise forming somewhere on her face. He stopped for a second, inspecting the damage done on the alicorn mare. Her lip split as a large gash marred the top of her left brow. The swelling around her left eye just made Naruto feel slightly bad for the alicorn, his eyes gazing at hers, one set becoming a softening set of anger and the other quivering, waiting for Naruto's attacks to start again. Are you done yet? Because I can key. He felt the impact as the lavender unicorn slammed into him, freeing Nightmare Moon from his magical grasp, as she went back over to the elements of harmony as they began to spark. Mare Bucker, I almost had her, I just needed a bit longer. His thoughts turned back towards the alicorn, beaten and bloodied alicorn. Her composure regained, and Naruto was sure that telekinesis spell wouldn't work the second time around. No, this can't be. The alicorn voice sounded troubled as Naruto watched the light sparks fly before it faded into nothing, and with a billowing laugh she destroyed what seemed to be their only hope of defeating the fiendish mare. You little fools, thinking that either of you can defeat me, now you will never see your princess or your son. The night will last forever. The alicorn laughed as she let her magical mane float through the air, as all 3 ponies heard the other Mares ending their journey to reunite with their friends, and with that little thing a spark shined in Twilight's eyes. You may think you destroyed the elements of harmony like that. Well, you're wrong, because the spirits of the elements of harmony are right here. Naruto inched away from the 6 Mares, and knowing his use was now practically up, he watched the elements begin to glow and rise from the air. Applejack, who reassured me while I was in doubt, represents the spirit of honesty. Fluttershy, who tamed the manticore with her compassion, represents the spirit of kindness. Pinkie Pie, who banished fear in the face of danger, represents the spirit of laughter. Rarity, who calmed a sorrowful serpent with a meaningful gift, represents the spirit of generosity. Rainbow Dash, who couldn't abandon her own friends for her own heart's desire, represents the spirit of loyalty. The spirits of these 5 ponies got us through every challenge you threw at us. Naruto could see the fear in Nightmare Moon's eyes, well, the unswollen at least, and even he was a tad intimidated by the magical aura surrounding the ponies Twilight named off. You still don't have the 6th element. The spark didn't work. But it did a different kind of spark. I felt it the very moment I realized how happy I was to hear you, see you, cared about you. The spark ignited inside of me as I realized that you all are my friends. That moment Naruto was sure that he'd be witnessing something as a blinding bright light took the shape of a 6th sphere. You see, Nightmare Moon, when those elements are ignited by the spark that resides in us all, it's the 6th element. The element of magic. Both alicorns' eyes fixated on the gems surrounding each pony as they all took the shape of a necklace and for Twilight a crown. The magic didn't stop as a rainbow of magical energy twisted around each other before combining and slamming into Nightmare Moon, twisting around before an explosion shook the landscape. That's the elements of harmony, no wonder why it was hidden those things are. Celestia, I don't know how to describe it. Naruto's words struck home as the dust had yet to settle, but one thing was clear, he was never going to forget what he saw today. Naruto, shut up and listen, she still wants to fight. The alicorn blinked, trying to find the owner of the voice. It's me, Senna, I'm in your head, idiot, just get ready, the dust is going to settle soon. The alicorn scoffed at the thought of Nightmare Moon getting up from such an attack. The dust settled and sure enough Senna was right, there at the epicenter of the attack happened to be standing Nightmare Moon. Her body was beaten and battered as flakes of what appeared to be her coat all across the ground, with blotches of a blue where her black coat should have been. Her left wing was the same color as the blue blotches of color across her coat, and the armored crest gone as it remained broken across the ground. The thing that startled Naruto the most was the alicorn's eyes, both fully healed and both displaying different emotions. The right eye showed loneliness and despair as though it was pleading for anyone to pull her away from the monster it had become or put her out of this miserable existence, while the left stared in anger at the orange alicorn dissecting him with each subtle twitch of the eye. Senna, I need to save her. His eyes settled on that pleading right eye, he'd save her from that pit of despair like these ponies did for him not too long ago. So you're the first to stand against me, so be it, Uzumaki, you will die under my hooves. Her body began to erupt in a magical aura as the mane flickered and licked at the tips of the ground. Oh mare fucker. The end. Alright, that's it for today's video, guys. Let me know in the comments section how was the story, and also don't forget to like, share and subscribe. Bye bye.